The extra deck is the crown jewel of Yu-Gi-Oh! For most decks, it's the reason for their existence and would be useless without it, but some don't really need it. Monarchs with Domain of the True Monarchs is probably the most extreme example, but decks like Labyrinth and Fluandereeze play an extra deck but aren't reliant on it, although it does help. And this has created an opportunity for Konami to design cards with the concept I like to call no extra deck cards. This is kind of a broad idea, but I look at it as a combination of two things. One, extra deck monsters that have graveyard effects by banishing themselves or get effects when they're sent to the graveyard, and two, cards that use the extra deck as a resource but not in the traditional sense. Now obviously the extra deck is a resource. It has generic tools and powerful boss monsters, but these cards are more about breaking boards rather than making them. The best examples might be cards like Ultimate Slayer or Dogmatica Punishment, or I guess the entire Dogmatica archetype. You dump an extra deck monster to get rid of a monster, but ideally the monster you sent has some sort of additional value, like Malong to bounce, Miralogic Aggregator to negate, or Garura to draw. And it's really interesting how this has evolved over time and kind of developed unintentionally. Entis and Herald of the Arclight are relatively old cards, coming out in 2017 and 2014 respectively, but they've aged better because of the previously mentioned cards, but they were never intended to be used in that way. And this generally happens a lot in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there's no rotation, but these cards were given a completely new role. And then you get to cards that almost occupy a middle ground, like Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. You can snipe your opponent's extra deck, but you need to be playing that monster as well. This could easily be played in mirror matches, but for an anti-meta player, you can pack your extra deck with the most used cards and have a strong chance of hitting something every time you activate it. And this does also remind me of a card like Metaltronus, which is different but is kind of meant to achieve the same concept. And as we creep closer to the modern game, we get stuff like Ultimate Slayer and 2022's Power of the Elements. Your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to this card's activation. Send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then target one monster your opponent controls with the same card type, shuffle it into the deck. Power of the Elements also included a card that pairs very nicely with Ultimate Slayer being Garura, and the following set we got Miralogic Aggregator, and the next year we got Malong, and finally we catch up today, things like Eclipse Twins and Valon. And as you can see, it's kind of becoming more intentional as opposed to accidental. And to be clear, some of these cards do have utility outside of being dumped to the graveyard. Garura is a great super poly target, Valon is a great tool in K9, and Herald of the Arclight is a powerful floodgate. And I did mention most of these no extra deck cards are focused on board breaking, but there are two in particular that are very, very different. They almost treat the extra deck like mana, and those two cards are Pot of Extravagance and Pot of Prosperity. I think Extravagance is a very well designed card. The monsters you banish are random, it has to be the start of your main phase, and you can't draw for the rest of the turn. Restrictive but powerful, and is a great tool for the decks that need it. I think of strategies like Grand Maju, Labyrinth, and Eldritch, giving a little extra to the decks that wouldn't normally need an extra deck, and I really like that. But then we get to Pot of Prosperity, which is kind of the tipping point. Banish 3 or 6 cards of your choice from the extra deck face down. For the rest of the turn, after this effect resolves, any damage your opponent takes is halved. Also, excavate cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of cards banished. Add one excavated card to your hand, place the rest on the bottom of the deck in any order. Pot of Prosperity can be run in any deck, can be activated at any point during the turn. You choose what you banish, and you choose what you add. And the damage having effect is almost irrelevant. And the only deck where it would matter, it still doesn't really matter. I'm not as big of a fan of Pot of Prosperity's design, but I do still think it's a good card. But in general, I'm curious to see if Konami can add any more layers to these kinds of cards, as it seems like it's at its limit now, but I'm excited for whatever they can think of next. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. What's your take on no extra deck cards? Leave your opinions in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.